everyone, Jenn DuBell here. Welcome to the Country Craft Creations Homemade for Christmas YouTube Hop. Today, several designers are hopping across YouTube with some amazing projects to show you using some of the new exclusive paper lines from Tamara at Country Craft Creations. And I would like to show you what I have created, which is this fun little 5.5 by 6 folio. And I have used this adorable Christmas cheer paper collection. This is very retro themed Christmas paper. A lot of pictures of different, what I would call 50s style. You also in this receive all these fun little cutouts, and there are also some pages such as these that are like journaling cards that are cutaways from the paper. And I will use those throughout. Now, for my video, I have chosen to show you a full walkthrough and give you the measurements that I have taken down as I've created mine for the decorating using the designer papers. And then I will also have a tutorial for you on the base, how it was cut, and how to put it together with the black cardstock. Of course, you can do that in any color that you like. And that will be a on-screen instruction with pictures and a few more follow-ups to different ways of attaching things will also be in that tutorial. But for now, let's just dive into this. Let's dive right in. For this, again, I've used the Christmas Cheer retro Christmas themed paper. For the front and the back of this album that measures 5.5 by 6, the covers I've used green cardstock to matte, and those measure 5 3/8 by 5 7/8, and those are for the front and the back. This retro designer paper is 5 1/4 by 5 3/4. Again, you cut two, one for the front, one for the back. And then the cutaway sheet, I do not have another one because I have used it all up, has two borders across the bottom here. One of them being this lovely strip of Christmas lights, and the other is this adorable strip of little Christmas martinis. And these are just absolutely adorable. So I cut these away and cut them, two of them, into strips at the same width, being 5 1/4 across. And I also used those to cover the ribbons that I used for my closure. This portion here is black chipboard. That is a medium weight chipboard, not super thick. And I have cut that at 3, and it looks like about 3/8 by 5 1/8. And then I matted that with green cardstock, the same green cardstock used on the cover and back, at 3 1/8 by 4 7/8. And then our little Christmas cheer starts out like this little cut apart. And I've just cut that inner portion out of that and then cut it down to put on the green mat at 3 inches by 4.5 inches, and put that there. And then the little star here is cut from this sheet, which is included, and I've cut that little star out, mounted it on the same black chipboard used here, cut it away from that, and then I also added this cute little green button from my stash to pick up that lime green in that retro paper, and place that on foam adhesive squares and put that on here as an embellishment. To cover the spine, I used a strip of paper that was left over, and this measures 3/8 of an inch wide by 5 3/4 and was just adhered to the spine by itself with no mat. So let's dive into the inside of my album, and I will show you all the fun. So here we have our first little tip out page. I just love tip outs in folios. They're wonderful. So we will make 3 of these in the guide for how to cut the base. And the designer papers on this side I did not mat, but these measure out to be 4 3/8 by 5.5. And that is, these were cut, 2 different ones were cut. Again, these are 4 3/8 by 5.5. And these will cover the black pages that you will see in the base. I did cut 2 different ones, this lovely green retro paper and this martini glass with the little elves, just absolutely adorable. And I have gone through and I have cut out the cutaways of the other. I had 2 of these sheets and I cut them all out so that I could use them as tuck spots throughout my folio. And there's one example here. This is just done by fussy cutting these and then taking either glue or score tape right across the bottom and leaving it open at the top so that you can slip something in there, a piece of paper, a sentiment of some sort, a card, a gift card, anything can be slipped into these that you like. Moving forward, the middle portion, this red, which I will talk about more in my tutorial, is the Barn Red Artisan cardstock, and I've used that to map my inside page. And this measures in at, I apologize, I'm looking here, 5 3/8 by 5 7/8. And then this designer paper, which I chose the retro Christmas ornaments, is 5 1/4 by 5 3/4. And again, we have another one of those adorable little cutout pieces to use as a tuck spot. Moving this way, I will open this up and show you the middle portion. Again, we have that red mat of the Barn Red Artisan cardstock that measures 5 3/8 by 5 7/8. And here are our other 2 pages that we create in the tutorial. These will also have designer paper covers without mats. You can choose to mat them if you want. And they also have some of the tuck spots. These will be the exact same size papers as we used here. The Starlight Mints and the green plaid is what I chose. And again, these measure 5 1/4 by 5 3/4. And I did that for 4 sheets. So you have 1 for each side. And again, I have some more of those fun little cutouts. For the middle portion, on the back side of those, I put my large pocket that we will create in my tutorial. And I put a piece of that same retro paper that I used on my cover in the back of my folio to cover my pocket. And that piece measures 4 3/8 by 5 1/2 and was notched. I then added a magnet to there on the cover here and this strip of the martini glass border. And I've added a magnet closure here. Now, how this was done is just a simple strip of scrap paper that measures about 1 inch to 1 1/8 wide. Put score tape on the back of that and slide it in your pocket and just burnish that down inside of there and then fold it over so that it meets that magnet. And this will help to keep this closed. I've chose to use 2 die cut scallop circles that are about, this is a die from my stash, they're about 2 3/4 size circles. And then I used the next smaller one from that nesting die set to cut out one of the trees from that cutaway sheet. And that is what's hiding my magnet for this. On this side here, we'll just open this up. We have our inner pages of our back tip out. These ones on this side were matted, and these measure, so our red mats are 4 3/8 by 5 3/8, followed by designer paper at 4 1/4 by 5 1/4, and another one of those fun little tuck-ins. And that again, you will do twice, once for the front, once for the back. This one will have our pocket. The 2 end pages, these here, sorry, I'm referring to a guide here, of our final fold out page, is red matte at 4 1/8 by 5 3/8, and the designer paper is 4 by 5 1/4. And again, you'll do that twice. On this one, I chose to use another scrap, glue it just at the ends, and then added this little cute puppy in a stocking from the cutouts. And that is a little belly band that again can house a picture or a gift card or whatever you like. The final part of this for your decorator paper is your small pocket. And this was done once you adhere that piece of paper to the back. We add the black pocket, and then the pocket cover is this green plaid I used, and it's 3 5/8 by 2 7/8, and then notched. I used one of the cut aparts and glued it on there for a little sentiment. On the back portion, I've added, again, that strip of martini glass that holds my ribbon, and then added this adorable little cutout to the back. So that is my completed album and the measurements needed to create your own. Next, we will move on to how I create the base and show you how to put it together. Okay, now you should have a total of 7 pieces for the base of this folio. The first being the main base of your book. And this is black cardstock measuring 11 1/2 by 6, scored down the middle here at 5 1/2 inches and 6 inches. This will be our base. Next, you have the back tip out or fold out, however you want to call it. And this piece is 9 1/2 inches by 5 1/2 inches, and it is scored at 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, and 5 3/4. And this is our back piece here. You also have your 3 folding pages, and these all measure 5 by 5 5/8, and they are all scored at 1/2 inch along that side, making them 4 1/2 by 5 5/8. One of these will be placed here, and 2 will be placed in the middle. We also have our larger pocket. This is made also from black cardstock, and it was cut at 5 1/2 by 5 inches, scored at 1/2 inch on both sides and down the bottom. And then these corners are all mitered, and I have used a notch punch to create a notch there. This will house in the middle pocket once our folio is put together. And then, of course, you have your smaller black pocket, and that will be housed on this page here when it folds open. And the black cardstock here is measuring at 4 3/4 by 3 1/2, scored down both sides across the bottom, notched with that same punch, and again we mitered our corners. So let's dive into how we put this together, and I will just show you the 2 pages that will be attached that need to have their notches, their little flaps, 1/2 inch flaps hidden. So first, start with your base. This was the very first piece that we went over and cut. This is the back, front, and insides of this. And we're going to start with this front portion. And this is where we're going to add our first page tip out. So you have one of the 3 black pages, and we are going to fold and burnish that score line down. And we're going to add some glue. This does not take a whole lot of glue, I will say. And we're just going to line that up as good as possible towards the middle of this page. Now, if you would like yours to be the same height as your book, or the same width, or both, that is very optional. I like a little difference in sizing when I do mine, and I just like the way this works. So we just want to go in here and make sure that that is all attached. There's no excess glue. Then we have red mats, and I've used the Barn Red Artisan cardstock for the matting throughout my folio. And the reason I would like to show you this portion on camera rather than just the pictorial instructions is so that you know how to do this portion where you hide your scored flap. So here we just put down our red cardstock, and it's going to cover that. And then anything else that you put on here, which will eventually be that pocket, is covered. So that is how that one is done. And I'm not actually going to adhere that because I may not use this base as going forward for this paper collection. So next, you're going to move to the back portion, which will be in the end, our back of our book. We're going to fold and burnish these two score lines down just so that I can show you where we're at here with our book. So when this closes, you will see the difference. So now we're going to take that piece that measures 9.5 by 5.5 and has been scored at 1/2 inch, 3/4, and 5 3/4. This is going to make the back pull-out pages. And you want to take this one and do the same thing. We're going to burnish down that 1/2 inch score line that we created. Make sure it's nice and straight. All right, so then we're going to add our glue to this portion. Again, this does not take a lot. You don't want a lot of seepage. And that I find it easier to turn, fold in this one and pull this down, and then we can take this and line it up where we're going to put that. And I like, again, to have it close to the middle. You can also use that first page to kind of line you up that we put in, because they are the same height. You should be able to pretty close to perfectly lining that. And we're just going to burnish that down. And I will move my 3/4 inch score line over. And I'm going to burnish that down as well. So that's going to give you this mechanism here, and this will be what your result will be. And those are the pages that have hinges that we want to cover. Again, we will use a red mat that is 5 3/8 by 5 7/8, and it will go here and cover that flap. And when you adhere these red mats, if you're using the red or whatever color you're using, just be sure when you're gluing this, as I said, I'm not going to glue it because I will use the space for a different project. Make sure that you don't go over that score line. You want to just butt right up to it and leave yourself a little bit of black around the edges to see. Next, we'll take one of the remaining 2 page panels that we cut on, and we're going to, again, burnish that 1/2 inch score line down. And this one, we'll glue it. This one will go along the second line of your score line on your base. So we just want to butt that up kind of close, but not too close, because we are going to put red paper on top of this, and we don't want to make it so it does not open. So just get that as close as possible before burnishing it down. And again, that red paper when it's put on here. So now you have a flap here and a flap here. And we're going to place that red piece of paper, and it's going to cover both of those flaps very nicely for us. There is a second page here that if you were to put it in here, it would not hide it. The other option would be to place it on the other side, like so, if you want that hinge hidden. For mine, I just left that one underneath the pocket. So it is hidden in mine, but it is under the larger pocket. So before placing that large pocket down on here, I chose to put this along the red paper. And then I was able to cover that with my pocket, like so.